Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Inspirational Ingrid channel. How is everyone doing? I hope you're all well and you had a fantastic week so far. I'm a little bit tired today, I have to be fair. A little bit tired. I almost didn't come on tonight. But as you know, God always says that you need to be consistent with whatever you do. So, I'm here and I'm with you all again. So, anyway, the session that I have for you today, and it's going to be a short one, it's actually called Surely Your God is the God of Gods. Surely your God is the God of Gods. Now, the reason why the session is actually called this today, I've actually been reading the book of Daniel. So I've been posting all week about the life of Daniel with King Nebuchadnezzar, with Daniel being with his friends in the fiery furnace. And actually now, today, I've actually read that he survived being in the lion's den. You know, God freed him from that. So this is actually before Daniel actually gets into the lion's den, though. This is when Daniel actually interprets the king's dream. Because remember, there was no astrologer, there was no wizard, no warlock, witch, whatever you call them, magician that could actually decipher or interpret the king's dream. There was no one in the land or in the kingdom that could do this. And so the king was actually threatening all of his staff, saying that if you can't do this, I will actually kill you, which is quite, strange, really. So they're all like getting frightened now, thinking, oh my gosh, so all the king's court, as it were. So as you know, Daniel was already in the king's court, and Daniel actually informed him, the king, actually, to say, well, I can't actually interpret the dream, but my God can interpret it for you. So he said, yes, please, because I really want to know what my dream is. I don't understand it. And, this is really just shaking me up to the core. So Daniel, he speaks to God, and God starts to explain to Daniel what the dream, the king's dream, actually means. So this is what happened. So it's actually in Daniel chapter 2, and I'm only going to read verses 46 to 48, because this is what happened when Daniel could actually interpret the king's dream with God's help. And it says, then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate before Daniel and paid him honor and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel, surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries. For you were able to reveal this mystery. Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Now, remember, Daniel was never in the court, never in the palace quarters. And all of a sudden, he's placed in, the palace quarters. And now he's asked to interpret a dream for the king. Even though the king threatened to kill everyone in his kingdom because they couldn't actually interpret this dream. But you see, this is what God does to people. If you are a Daniel, God will give you certain gifts and talents that no one else can do. And so if God actually places you somewhere, for example, in the king's palace, in King Charles III's palace, for example, and you were the only one to tell King Charles what he must do, or what his dream meant, or what this circumstance, or how to solve this problem. If you was the only one, can you imagine? Surely King Charles will actually reward you, give you some kind of reward. If no one else in his palace or in the palace courtyard or quarters could actually tell King Charles, what the dream meant, or whatever it is he wanted to be solved, but only you could, it was only you, then, it was God that's actually given you that gift, that talent, and actually placed you in that position. Imagine King Charles actually making you like, the next in command, or his chief of staff to follow him all over the world, or something like that. It'd be quite strange, wouldn't it? But this is exactly what happened to Daniel. And that's because Daniel prayed to God. Daniel honored God. Daniel trusted God. Daniel had faith in God, and God knew it. And so God gave Daniel certain gifts, certain talents, and also made him perform signs and wonders and miracles on his behalf. Because it wasn't to Daniel's glory, it was actually all to God's glory. So much so that the king had to say, surely your God is the God of all gods, and the Lord of kings, and a revealer of mysteries. Your God, he said, your God. So when you're speaking to people and you're trying to explain who your God is, a lot of the times they can't actually understand what you're saying, what you're talking about, especially if they don't actually have the belief. Especially if they've never had a personal relationship with God. For you to actually explain who God is in your life is sometimes quite difficult. But, and there is a but, or there is a however, if something happens in your life that no one can actually explain, and they would say, oh, that's got to be God. Only God could do this thing. Because remember, God is a God of the impossible. Whatever is impossible for man is not impossible for God. So, when God does these things, that's only when they believe, right? But then they forget again. Even believers who have had certain things happen in their life, they've had the biggest testimony, whatever, they also forget what's happened and what God has done. So when they get into another circumstance or another situation or another challenge, they actually forget that God did this time and time before. So why wouldn't God do it this time? Why wouldn't God intervene this time? Why wouldn't God change everything this time around? And so this is the belief and the faith that Daniel had. He trusted God so much that he would say, God, reveal something to me. Let me interpret this thing. Help me to interpret the king's dream. Because this is what we're facing. We're almost facing death here. So please help us out. Yeah? But the fact of the matter is, when God does the impossible, the unbeliever has to believe. But sometimes they think, oh no, there's got to be some scientific explanation. But what scientific explanation? Especially if nothing has actually been, performed or tested before. How could it be scientific? It has to be supernatural. And anything that is supernatural is actually something that God has actually done. Because it's out of this world. It is something that man could not actually do or even fathom. Only God could do it. Only God can do over and beyond what man couldn't do. And so this is the message that I had today, because this word on its own, surely your God is the God of gods. Surely he is the Lord of kings. Who else could he be? Right? Who else could our God be? So, if you have a challenge today, or you're facing a situation that seems impossible, remember, even the unbeliever, King Nebuchadnezzar, had to ask, or had to declare, should I say, that surely your God is the God of gods, and there is no other. Because who else could do such amazing and wonderful and miraculous things? Who else could do this? And so we have to kind of ask ourselves and remind ourselves, why do we not have confidence in God? Why do we not trust in him? Why do we not believe that if God said he would do a thing, he will do it? Why do we find it so hard as humans to understand that God's ways are not our ways? We have to put our whole entire faith in him and just trust him that he will work everything out for our good. Amen. So anyway, this is the end of my session today. In actual fact, it was meant to be short, but I think it's a bit longer than I thought. So there we go again. You see, when you get into a word, you enjoy it so much, you just want to keep speaking about it. But anyway, this is the end of my session, and I hope you've actually enjoyed the word today. If you have enjoyed the content today, I pray that you will like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And for those of you that have, thank you again so much. May God richly bless you all. Now, let me say the usual, because sometimes I haven't said it, but we need to remind ourselves who our God is, because surely our God is the God of gods. Amen. So let me remind you who you are. You are a child of God. You are unique. You are chosen, and you are very much loved by your Father in heaven. So may God continue to lead, guide, and protect you. May God bless you and just to make his face shine upon you and give you perfect peace. Amen. Now, I just want to say, remember who God is. Remember, whatever it is, he will work it out. He will do the impossible of what man cannot do. So until next time, I'm going to say bye for now, family. Look after yourselves and stay safe. Bye.